Good morning, guys. All right, let's get into our reading lesson today. One of the skills that we're working on with our story help this week is story elements. And some of these things are the things that we worked on last week too. It's just we're going to be doing something a little bit new this week. So story elements are just things that all stories need, and all stories have them. And we talked about realistic fiction stories last week, and we're talking about fantasy stories this week. And those are all made-up stories, because remember, a realistic fiction story was a made-up story, but it could be real. And then a fantasy story is a made-up story, but it had crazy things in it that could never be real. So that's the difference between realistic and fantasy. But they're still both made-up stories. And made-up stories are going to have these elements in them, or these things. And I bet you'll recognize and remember a few of them. One thing that a story has to have is it has to be about somebody, and those people are called characters. The people the story are about, or the people in the story, are the characters. We talked about that last week, didn't we? Yeah. And stories are going to have a setting. We talked about that last week. A setting is where the story is happening. Where are they at? Where are those characters at? That's a setting. And we practiced finding that last week. And then we talked about the plot last week. And plot was kind of difficult and a little bit hard to explain, or I thought it was to me. But remember, a plot is just when you're telling what happened in the story, and you're trying to do it in a short way, but you're still trying to make sure you talk about all the important stuff. And you start at the beginning of the story, and you just kind of work your way through until you get to the end of the story. So that's all the plot is. Part of the plot is what we're going to talk about today. And in part of the plot, there's going to be something called a problem and a solution. And a problem is something usually that goes wrong in the story. Some kind of problem. The characters will have a problem. Something will go wrong. Something bad happens. That's a problem. You know what a problem is. Well, all stories pretty much in their plot are going to have a problem. And there's going to be a solution. And the solution is how they fix it. How does the problem get better? That's what a solution is. And I bet you can think back to Big Red Lollipop how there was definitely a problem in that story. The problem was that, the mom kept making the sisters take their other little sister, and that was kind of a problem. And then it got solved by Rubina kind of talked her mom out of it so that they didn't have to do that anymore. I think their mom saw that was kind of a bad idea. So the problem got fixed. That's the solution. And all stories, pretty much all stories, if they are made-up stories, are going to have a problem and a solution in their plot. So that's kind of what we're working on today. There we go. We're going to listen to our reading story one more time. And when we get done listening to our new story, Help, we are going to talk about its story elements, its characters, its setting, and we're going to see if we can find the problem and the solution that was in this story, because it's really important to be able to tell what the story was about, and usually stories have problems in them. That's what it's about. So let's go ahead and listen. And I found a YouTube video of a lady reading it. Since I already read it to you once, I thought it would be nice if somebody else read it to you this time. I'm sorry. All right, so let's listen to her read Help. I think she did a really good job of putting expression in the story, which means she kind of makes it sound realistic.
Oh, a story of friendship.
Oops, I'm going to go back. There we go.
Help! A story of friendship by Holly Keller. One morning, Hedgehog found Mouse covering himself with leaves. "What in the world are you doing?" asked Hedgehog. "I'm hiding," said Mouse, "from Snake." "From our friend Snake?" asked Hedgehog. "Yes," Mouse whispered. "Fox told Skunk, and Skunk told me that snakes are very dangerous to mice." "That's silly gossip," said Hedgehog. "You know know Snake would never hurt you. Come on, we can walk together and you will be perfectly safe. Mouse hesitated. I insist, said Hedgehog. So Mouse went along. Hedgehog talked about little things, but Mouse wasn't paying attention. He was still worrying about Snake. He looked around nervously. He looked everywhere but at his feet. Oh, help! Hedgehog peered down. You should be afraid of yourself, Mouse, not of Snake. It's not funny, Mouse yelled. I've hurt my foot and I can't get out. Are you sure? Hedgehog shouted. Yes, Mouse yelled. Stay calm, said Hedgehog. I'll get help. Just then Squirrel walked by. Mouse has gotten it into his head to be afraid of Snake, said Hedgehog. He was so nervous that he didn't watch where he was going. He fell into a hole and hurt his foot and now he can't get out. Can you help? But Squirrel couldn't help. It will be too dark, she said, and there might be spiders. Rabbit came along, and Hedgehog told him about Mouse and Snake. You know how to go down holes, said Hedgehog. Rabbit looked into the hole. Hello, Mouse, he yelled. It's too deep, Rabbit said to Hedgehog, and the walls are too straight. I wouldn't be able to hop out. Why don't you go, Hedgehog? Asked Squirrel. Because Mouse would have to get on my back, and my prickles would hurt him, Hedgehog said. Mouse started to cry. Hedgehog heard the grass move. It was Snake. What's going on? Said Snake. Shh, Hedgehog whispered. Mouse fell into a deep dark hole. He hurt his foot and he can't get out. It is a secret, Snake whispered back. Not exactly. It's just that we don't know how to get him out. Squirrel's afraid to go down by herself. Rabbit wouldn't be able to hop out. And I'm too prickly. Then I'll go down, Snake said. No problem. Oh no, said Hedgehog. That's not a good idea at all. Not at all, said Squirrel. Not at all, said Rabbit. You see, Snake, Hedgehog said. Fox told Skunk, and Skunk told Mouse that snakes are dangerous to mice. Mouse was trying to hide from you when he fell into the hole. But I have always been Mouse's friend, said Snake. Of course you have, said Hedgehog. So I'm going to rescue Mouse anyway, said Snake. How will you do it without scaring Mouse? Asked Hedgehog. Someone get a stick, said Snake. Squirrel did it. Now tie my tail around it, said Snake. Rabbit did it. Now make sure the knot is tight. Hedgehog did it. Now watch. When Mouse saw the stick, he grabbed it. Snake began to climb the tree, and slowly Mouse came up. Yay! Mouse saw Snake and gasped. Then he saw the stick still tied to Snake's tail. Snake saved you, said Hedgehog. He did, said Squirrel. He rescued you, said Rabbit. Because I would never hurt you, Snake said. Mouse turned a deep shade of pink. I'm really very sorry, he said. Snake, Squirrel, Hedgehog, and Rabbit helped Mouse hobble home. They bandaged Mouse's foot, and he lay down to rest. Several mornings later, Hedgehog was taking his walk, and along came Mouse. He was holding a bouquet of flowers. Where are you going, asked Hedgehog. I'm going to say thank you to Snake, said Mouse, and to give him some flowers that I picked. And Snake was so very pleased to have them. Help! A story of friendship.
All right. I really like that story. All right, so we have listened to her reread Help for us. Like I said, I really like the way that she put those expression into when she's reading. That means she kind of made it sound like the characters. I think that makes it more interesting. All right, so I told you that while we read that story, we should be working on or trying to find the characters, the setting, the problem, and the solution. Because remember, problem and solution is kind of part of the plot like we talked about last week. So I know we shouldn't have too much trouble with characters and setting just because we've worked on this so long. So who were the characters in Help, a Tale or a Story of Friendship? Yep, we definitely have Mouse. And we had Hedgehog. They were two at the very beginning, weren't they? Hedgehog. Oh, there was Rabbit. He came to help. Squirrel came to help too, didn't he? And then we had Snake. Good. Did I get all the characters? Good, good. All right, so the setting. Remember, setting is where are they at? Because remember, stories have to have characters. There have to be people in them. And there has to be a setting. It has to be happening somewhere. So what's the setting? We kind of have to think about that. Sorry, guys.
This is a fire drill. Everyone please
lovely.
exit the building. This is a fire drill. Everyone please exit the building.
We're going to ignore that because we're not in the building. So don't worry about it. All right, we're going to keep on going and ignore the fire drill. Do not go out of your house. Okay, here we go. Back to our setting. So it has to be happening somewhere. And in this story, it didn't tell you exactly where. But if we think about some of the pictures in the story, it looks like they're probably, I was trying to get a clear shot, but it looks like they are where? Well, yeah, I think maybe they are outside, probably in the, I think they're in the woods. There were trees in the woods, sometimes there's holes in the woods, and we know that all of these animals live in the woods. So the pictures, I think we can tell there's trees and grass. It definitely looks like the woods to me. So we're going to say they're in the woods. We also talked about how the setting can be when. And it didn't exactly tell us when in this story. Sometimes it does, but this one didn't really tell us when. So we're just going to leave it. Now our new part, problem and solution. I want you to think about the story Help. The characters, or at least one of the characters, has a big problem. What bad thing, because that's kind of a problem when something bad happens. What is the bad thing that happens to one of the characters? Let's think. What bad thing happens? Oh yeah, one of them falls in a hole. Who fell in the hole? Yes. So, Mouse falls in a hole, and he what? Yeah, and he can't get out. So, and he can't get out.
All clear. All clear.
That just means everybody that went outside for the fire drill can come back in. Since we didn't go outside, we're good. Let's keep going. Alright, so Mouse falls in a hole and he can't get out. That's definitely a problem. So remember, the solution is how does it get solved? How do they fix it? Okay, so if he was in the hole and he couldn't get out, how did it get fixed? How did it get better? Yeah, I remember that now, yeah. Now, you have to be really careful. If you notice, like in the problem part, I wrote a whole sentence, a nice, complete sentence. I can't just write Snake over here. Because I know it was Snake that rescued him. Snake helped. But if I just write Snake, is anybody going to know what that means? Is that a complete sentence? No. So I can't just write one word. I have to write a sentence so people will understand what about snake. There we go. So what about snake? What did he do to make the problem better? Exactly. Snake helped mouse out with a what? What did he use to help him out with? Yeah, he helped him out using a stick. So he helped him out with a stick. Very good. And now that's a sentence, and people understand what it means because I didn't leave anything out. All right, so that is what our lesson is this week. We are going to make sure that we can find the characters in the setting, which I know we did last week and you guys were doing really good at. But we also are going to find that problem and solution, which is part of the plot, like we talked about last week. So when we practice this tomorrow, hopefully you will be better at finding that problem and solution. So that's our lesson for today, and you actually don't have anything that you're going to do with this one because we did it all together today. But now tomorrow, you'll get to practice some and finding that problem solution all on your own, okay? All right, you guys have a good day. I'll see you later.